if you're looking to get in on any gambling action this NFL season or the NBA season or for the Major League Baseball playoffs, you better do it with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 of bonus bets by placing a simple $5 bet. Win or lose, that's $200 in bonus bets. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's literally no better time than this exact moment to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. Earlier in the show, we showed you a $5 ticket used on FanDuel that turned into $6,200. You could be next. And if you have a ticket like that, send it in to us. Visit FanDuel.com/UCSS. The link is on the screen. FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL and an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
By the way, Mike, one of our diehard fans, a guy by the name of Aaron Lee, who tweets at me all the time, he asked me to show Bernie this picture. Bernie, this is you, and I'll show the fans the picture too, sitting next to a little kid. Everybody can see this picture of Bernie at training camp next to a little kid here. That little kid is this guy Aaron, who's a huge fan of the show, and he said he was part of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and he met you, and he met the entire team. Here's a picture. And he said it was the time of his life. He'll never forget it.
Aaron,
huge fan of
you got to come in, man. I want to get another picture.
Yeah, you got to
like the Polk story when we recreated.
Mike Polk, yeah.
30 years later with the story.
Before and after.
Yeah.
So, again, I'm proud to say, and I want to not get too emotional, I used to do a ton. I still do a ton with Make-A-Wish.
Yeah.
So to be that age and me be that quarterback, and for Aaron still to be with us, Aaron, definitely come in, because I've met so many Make-A-Wish kids over the years, and most of us aren't with us anymore. So for you to be here, brother,
Aaron, we're glad you're doing well.
Yeah, so I'm not saying it's just to be on air and gratuitous. Come on in. Absolutely.
Mikey,
and
what do you got for
quickly,
us?
Here's a picture that I took 5 years ago of Bernie with a woman who I think was 100. You remember that? We were at Brown's practice, and this woman was there, and she said she wanted to get her picture taken with Bernie. That was 2018.
Yeah, and that was
5 years
actually
ago.
1 year after I started on this health journey.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's amazing to see your transformation, too, by the way, because I knew you in that dark period.
Yeah, when we first met, like 10 plus years ago, some of those.
It was crazy.
If you and me have some of those pictures, me, you,
I
and
have
Tracy.
them. Yeah, I have them. And
your
your transformation has been nothing short of remarkable.
So, Jay, question for you guys.
Okay.
And I'm putting it out very simply. The Browns, through 5 games, have been a historically good defense. 1,002 yards allowed through 5 games. That is it. That's the fewest in 50 years in the NFL. So would you guys rather have an all-time great offense or an all-time great defense?
I want Bernie to start because I can't wait to hear his answer.
Yeah, well,
I think I know where he's going.
Hey, I'm so biased here. I ain't even trying to be on the fence. Of course, it's offense in that. For me, as a guy who didn't have the physical skills to play defense in that, So from the offensive perspective with it, but that being said, for us to really get to where we want to get, and the teams that really are consistently the Super Bowl teams. And playing in Cleveland, it's miserable to be consistent offensively. So this dominant defense, this in 5+ decades, the NFL hasn't seen a defense start like this. This historic type defense, if it continues, and it really can continue, because if you dominate the defensive line, offensive line like they're dominating now, there's no reason this can't continue and take this to be special places. So in the interest of short-term thinking, I like this defense taking this.
Okay.
I mean,
that's
obviously,
a surprise to me.
The Browns are closer to one than the other.
Way closer.
But if we're in La La Land and we're starting from scratch, I'd much rather have Of course, I'm an offensive guy.
Yeah, I expected you to go
my
there.
Many games played in high-level 8th grade parks. Yes, I would much rather have the offense. And more recently, I think for much of the NFL's history, it was the great defenses that often won. But more recently, we've seen a lot of teams win great offense and solid defense. And I think that's how most of the teams do it now. We'll see. Things seem to be maybe changing back the other way this year. Maybe. It's still too early in the season to know for sure. But I think it would be interesting if we had, say, for example, the Browns kept this up defensively and the Dolphins kept it up offensively, and they played each other in the playoffs.
I'd love to see
that would
it.
be pretty
That's
interesting.
You'd love to see that.
I
Yeah.
love Mike McDaniels.
Oh,
Yeah. What do you
Such a
got,
smart
G-Boy?
Yeah.
Well, I used to be I flip-flop on this a little bit. I used to be an offensive guy. I played defense, but I always felt like offense was the way you really made your money in the league. It was the way that you could get to the Super Bowl. But as I started looking at, in the past and taking things, and just looking at the information, I look at the great offenses that in my time or anybody's time that were great that never won. The Bills' offense was dominant. The Bills could throw the ball. They could run the ball. They got wide receivers that are Reed and Kelly and Thurman Thomas. They never won. The Warren Moon teams of the 90s, they never won.
yeah, but that was a different era, though, G. Recently, it's been great offensive teams that have won.
I'm going to fast forward and keep going. When you talk about, a lot of it is, there's a lot of offensive teams that had really good, if you look at it, you break it down as far as teams go. Who's really won? Manning, Brady, and Mahomes. You take them three.
Throw in the history. Now throw in Montana. Pittsburgh and their dominance. They had a great defense, and when you go back and look at their offensive numbers, they're not historic at all.
No.
Yeah, but nobody put up historic numbers
Nobody
in
did.
the 70s.
Dallas,
offensively.
when they had their long runs, they did it with offense. In their second run,
They had
because they had
both.
an early run.
I think it's easier if I got a team, right, and I got a dominant defense, right? Traditionally, it takes less money to stock a defense than an offense.
No, I completely disagree. On offense, if you have a great quarterback, your offense is usually going to be great.
Yeah, but
On
he's taking up- he's your biggest
First
salary,
of all,
though.
we haven't had a historic defense in forever.
No.
The only thing close to that was Seattle when they won. That's a while now.
I thought the Denver Broncos carried Peyton Manning at the end of his career. The no-fly zone.
They did
I
that
think what
last
we're doing-
year.
I think what's
in the
happening
playoffs.
here is eras are overlapping. I think that in the NFL, if you chart it, it goes like this. And to Bull's point, and I first noticed this last year, particularly at the beginning of the season, when offensive numbers were just down league-wide. They still finished down for the year, not as down as they were to start the year, but they still were down. I think what happens is it's a copycat league. Teams look around and say, who is having success and why? Well, we're in the Mahomes era now. That's what it is. That came on the heels of the Brady era. So we really had two dominant quarterbacks, all-time great quarterbacks, on the heels of one another. I think that led us to where we are now. General managers started looking at, okay, if we want to win, who do we have to stop? Brady, Mahomes. Okay, let's spend our draft capital on defensive players. So it feels like we're now starting to swing from offense dominance back to defense dominance, and that's great for us because if you think about the draft picks that this regime has had, we've hit on defensive players. The offensive players, not so much.
And Jay, even in college, you're starting to see numbers
Yes, you
be
are.
down in college.
It used to be
70
Well,
points.
We got to see it for a whole season.
Well, we got to see it for a couple of years, I think.
Yeah. Because
you know,
in the end, last year
you
was
did
all about
have-
the offense in the Super Bowl.
The outliers were the Buccaneers with Brad Johnson, the Ravens with Trent Dilfer. Go back to the 80s, the Bears with Jim McMahon. I think, and it used to be the old cliche, defense wins championships. I think that's been muddied up the last 15 years by the quarterback play and the offenses. But I do think we are coming back into the era of the defense.
To your points, it has been offensively oriented the last decade plus because a lot of it has to do with the rules of the league.
That's right.
And how they call the games.
Sure.
Okay, so as an offensive guy, I would love to have played 5 years ago where nobody's allowed to touch anybody.
Yeah.
Even 2 years ago, I touch your head penalty, okay?
Yeah.
That's fine. I love that as a quarterback. I want those 15 yards.
You would have played
okay?
another 5 seasons minimum.
And we got scoring at all-time highs, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Offensively, you had to do it. Jim Schwartz and the Myles Garrett type defensive lines would be so mitigated. They'd be so apprehensive because they're not allowed to touch anybody. Be careful. They got to think. one of the great
Yet
things.
even with these rules, they're off to an
Right.
all-time great 5-game start.
But
Yeah.
here's what's sweet in the NFL this year. Not just us. Scoring is at one of the all-time lows this season in the last 2 years. And it's, I believe, 100% because the league is letting them play some. There's some hits going on the quarterback that don't get called.
So you think that pendulum is swinging back
Oh,
the other
God,
way?
yes. And then here's a hidden thing that happens in the NFL in December and playoff time. Even in a few years ago, when it was you weren't allowed to touch anybody and everything was a penalty, a defensive holding, a pass interference, hitting the quarterback, they let you have more contact.
In December and
In
January.
December and January. So
but here-
Jim Schwartz now being here with that wide 9,
Can get even more aggressive.
he's going to get more aggressive.
Wow,
and
that's
we
interesting, Bernie.
play press coverage.
Here's what I would say to that, though. Last year in the end, the Super Bowl was the two best offensive teams in Philadelphia and Kansas City.
Yeah.
And they play, and the defense, it was, what was the final score? 35-28? I
Right.
mean, it was a high-scoring game. I think part of the reason defense has, Jay said last year, the defense was up early, and then as the year went on, the offense picked up. It was down,
But never
it
up
picked
to where it had been.
Here's what I think is happening the last couple of years, and it happened again big time this year. And that's why I have to see the numbers change for the whole year before I believe it. Offensive players, quarterbacks and skill position guys across the board now are barely playing in the preseason, if at all.
Yeah.
And I think offenses are coming out much rustier early in the
Oh,
season
for sure.
That's
the last
definitely-
couple of
that's
years.
definitely-
And I think that's a factor. Now, I do think the tide may be turning a little bit, but I don't think it's turning quite as fast as we think because of that. I need to see it for a full year and then beyond.
There's one other reason that I would pick defense, because you start to think about the teams where they just won championships just with defense, and the offenses were mid. And I mentioned the Bears, the Ravens, and the Buccaneers. The one time we had the all-time greatest offense we had ever seen, they rewrote the record book. Randy Moss came into New England, and it was like
Michael
popcorn.
Strahan played defense.
And what happened in the Super Bowl? The great defense, which wasn't an all-time historical great defense, by the way.
No.
It was a good defense by all accounts, but it wasn't up there with the Bears, the Ravens, the Buccaneers, and some of those. They stopped the unstoppable train and won the Super Bowl
I
with
think
great
that's-
defense.
They got a lucky play on the helmet catch.
Well, listen,
if they don't have that, they lose the game. I mean, that's the you know. Well, we do ifs all the time.
If your grandmother had wheels, she'd be a
Jay,
bike.
you bring up ifs all the time.
Yes. However,
you
what I
can't-
do,
you
you
can't
always
dismiss my F.
and you
if-
always dismiss my ifs. So I'm
fair.
I'm really the person that never says it.
The point is, that was still a great team.
It
and
was,
It
but-
wasn't like they got smoked in that Super
however,
Bowl.
the history books, when we're all gone 100
Yeah.
years from now, they'll look up that page and they'll say, all-time greatest offense we'd ever seen did take the L in the Super Bowl to a really good defense. That's why
Is that a better offense than the Kurt Warner Rams
it
offense?
was for me, and statistically, it was no doubt.
I mean, he did catch 25
They
touchdowns.
rewrote the record book in every category.
25?
And I remember when I watched it, I said, I've never seen anything like this.
They're just throwing the ball
Even the
backwards.
greatest show on turf, which was phenomenal. How many Super Bowls did they win?
One.
And now, if we're going to use ifs, on the last play of the game, Tennessee got tackled where?
Okay,
You're
fine.
right.
Yeah.
On the 1 yard
But let me
line.
ask you this.
That was a great play.
There is not a single team of the great defenses that has won more than one Super Bowl. The '85 Bears,
No.
the greatest defense ever.
You're right.
Won one.
You're absolutely
That Ravens
right.
team won one. It was a different team years later that won.
Ray
That
was a part
Buccaneers
of both
team-
of those, though.
He was, but
Yeah.
the rest of the defense
But
had changed.
you're right.
I had to play the '85 Bears defense in the home opener in
Oh, my
1986 in Chicago
Right.
with those
How
guys.
did they not win more than
Buddy,
one?
what happened was the team got fractured.
Yeah.
If you watch that 30 for 30
Yeah,
that
but-
they did on
But
that
Walter
team,
didn't get a
and Buddy
touchdown
Ryan-
in the Super Bowl. That
Yeah,
would
They gave it to the fridge.
Yeah.
And they scored like 55 points or whatever that number was. And at the end of the game, when they could have given the great Walter Payton, who did not score a touchdown in the Super Bowl, they gave the ball to the refrigerator, who was a massive story. But
I think it was the greatest team ever. To
and
me,
remember,
that
when
season.
they
Oh.
won that Super Bowl, they didn't carry Mike Ditka off the field.
They kept
They carried Buddy
Buddy
Ryan
Ryan.
off the field. Think about
That's
that
true.
for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.